Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm with a very special guest, the one and only Desmond Hansen, or Graves 333 or 33. So, dude, first actually I want to start off with this music because I've seen your murals all around Seattle, and actually I want to do some type of collaboration with that, whether it's like making like a documentary or a video about it. But then when I did some more research, I found out that you're an actual like artist, like rapper. So, tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of started rapping back in like the, underground hip hop days and um, kind of the glory period of the, hip hop elements and kind of got my my start doing a lot of DJing and graffiti and that led to producing beats for my friends who rapped. And then after a while, after a while, I noticed that I was making more beats than they could write to.
Oh wow.
So I just started writing to my own beats, and yeah, and then that turned into just it was just a lot of fun, and then yeah, shortly after, just started working into releasing albums seriously and stuff like that, and then just kept it kind of like original, organic following. Never really, you know, there's a lot of people out there who would like get into promotion and get into all kinds of, things like that. And then the second I started taking that stuff a little too serious, I realized that it was taking the fun away.
Mhm.
And I would tour a bunch. I would tour, across the U.S. and play little clubs and stuff with my friends. But, um, after a while, you realize that it's kind of just like costing money, you know, unless you really try to take it all by storm and stay on the road 24/7. And there came a point where I was having my son Isaiah, and I realized it wouldn't be I wouldn't be a great father for being on the road all the time and taking all this rap life all so serious.
Mhm.
So I started focusing more on art and things that I could do locally. And you know, I mean, prior to that, I was painting and drawing and stuff and doing logos here and there, but it was never really like a serious thing until um, when I started painting all this, the boxes and things like that, and bigger murals. It started being more in the realm of possibility as a career move, and just kind of like realized that I shouldn't neglect my art side. That I can always make music for fun, and yeah, so that's kind of where I was.
Was music ever something you wanted to take seriously, or did it just like keep happening and you're like one day you're like, wow, I never thought I was going to get this serious?
Yeah, yeah, music. I actually there was a period towards the end where I was taking it a little too serious, you know, and like I shouldn't fool myself because the music that I was making was still very like underground or it didn't, all my songs didn't really relate to the masses necessarily. And so I realized that, I should probably just focus on producing beats and just because some of the stuff I talk about in my raps is a little like esoteric and inside jokes to me and my friends and stuff like that. And but anyways, so I realized if I was to try to take it and focus on it full time, it would probably cost me a lot of money. And then in the end, I don't know exactly if it would be. I think I would probably end up and it's a bad way of thinking probably, but I would probably end up spending more money than I'm making,
Mm.
and that's not and being away from my family for so long, like because really in the music industry the real way to get traction is to be on the road,
Hmm.
you know.
Sometimes I feel like we might like as a artist we might trick ourselves into thinking that everything's an investment, but you definitely have to weigh out the things like, is this taking too much time away from my family? If this is something I actually want to do I even want a family? Things like that. It's everything you have to weigh it out. So I think that's actually important for people to know that someday you might wake up and be like, is this actually what I want to do?
Yeah, yeah, and it's all about time and energy and what do you get back out of it,
Hmm.
And in the music industry, I'll at least reach a lot of frustrations. Unfortunately, there's a lot of times where you put a lot of effort in, and then maybe a promoter doesn't promote the show right, and you show up to their city and they didn't even put out flyers or anything, and you go like, well, how do you expect to even fill this crowd?
Mm.
That kind of stuff is just stuff you deal with. Um, it's in every industry. There's always going to be a lazy-footed person, um, but I was always putting in extra effort. And most of the people I toured with and all my friends, they would all vouch for I was like a really hard worker, um, and I just wanted to have a good time. I always related it to like when I was a kid, we would throw house parties, in high school, and those would be packed. Those would be we'd have like 100 people just kicking it, and we'd be DJing and stuff. And then now you throw a show and you go out on a limb to be your own promoter in your own city, and you do extra effort and do all this stuff, and then 10 people show up or 15 people show up, that are strangers, and you know you just kind of feel like, wow, uh, you know it is it is what it is. But I tried not to get bitter, and in the end I just realized that if I kept on that route, I would be neglecting my art and my family. And I felt like if I was surrounded by so many great great friends of mine that I would see what they're doing, and I go, man, I should pick the paintbrush back up, or whatever. And eventually I did, and it felt really good. I mean, this Jimi Hendrix behind me is like one of the first oil paintings I ever did,
Oh
and
shit.
and that when I did that, I went, oh man, I felt like an instant addict, like I gotta get more paint, gotta get more supplies.
Yeah, that's dope that you found like your true calling. And like I said, just I think it's hard for some people to let go of what they want to do, and they start, being in a cycle and realizing it's not working out for them. Do you think that it might have been just the time and place for your music, or do you think just Seattle as a whole is maybe not the best place for an upcoming rappers? Or
Um, well, I still do music. I have a group called Prior Prism, um, Prior Prism, not Priapism, and we have like it's music that's kind of out there and real current sounding, but the subject matter is more along the lines of like survivalist culture, like how to start a fire with no flame and songs like that, or like you know um, but but it's kind of disguised as when you hear the music you go, oh, this might sound like some trap or something, but
Mhm.
you listen closely to what we're saying. And so we still have fun in making music. There might be a time in the future, and also with how things are going, like we'll probably release stuff because now you can, touring isn't really like a part of the format for the whole push of an album now. So um, at this point, you can release things into the ether of the internet and see what happens. And there's people out there supporting that stuff more than, or they're more likely to support now.
Mhm. So with your art fan base, do you think they know that you make music also, or do you think more people are kind of taken aback when they're like, "Oh, wait, he's not just a painter; he's also an artist."
I tend to try to separate the two. Like I try to keep them as, my rap life, that that was a whole separate side of me with what I look at as like a compartmentalized ego, you
Hmm.
know. And I tried to shed that when I started doing my art so that I would be, taken a little more serious as a professional. and putting my real name on everything. Um, and once I did that, I realized, if I, like, say, for instance, if I go to do a corporate gig, and painting a big mural for someone like Google or
Hmm.
someone, right? And they want to research me. I don't want anyone to get turned off it and go research my music and then go, what is, this guy's, and then have that be something that they either hire me or fire me on, you know?
Mm.
Uh, but, and also, because I just wanted, a clean slate from my art, really. And then now they intermingle, but also people want to dive even further and find out that I come from a musical family and that, then that, they could dive even deeper and figure out who my dad is and go, wow, uh, it's a creative lineage, really.
Hmm.
I think I come from a legacy of creators, you know.
Do you think your dad helped you inspire you to start music in the beginning, or because
Oh
I
yeah,
feel like hip hop's a interesting genre because it's like you just grow up with it and it's like something that you just could just freestyle with your friends and realize you're good or not good. So sometimes family members do inspire hip hop artists, sometimes they don't. So what was your experience like?
yeah. My dad, it was really cool because my dad, and my mom were both really facilitative. My dad's a musician who plays the guitar, and so at a young age, he kind of put me in front of the drum set, and so he had someone to jam with and keep some timing for him. And so around like, I'd say around 5, I was pretty fluent in playing the drums, or
Wow.
so 5 or 6. And then from the drums, played in hardcore until I was about 13 or 14, pretty much every day. And yeah, and then so that was an influence on me, drums, and then hip hop. Drums are a huge part of hip hop, and so I gravitated to it really fast, at a young age with like uh, MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice, and then NWA and Cool Mo D and KRS-One and all those guys, and then that led to underground music. I was really astonished when I was a teenager when I started making beats that there was an underground scene of hip hop where people who didn't have money could actually, put music out.
Hmm.
Because I always thought it was like you need a record deal and all this stuff. Um, and then so me and my friends would always, tinker around when we'd be at my dad's house. I'd be, on the drums or something. They'd be freestyling. And then my dad one day recorded us, and then I made a beat out of a Frank Zappa loop on his boomerang pedal. Um, and then I went to my friend King Kaz's house. Zulu Nation. Shout out to Kaz. He taught me how to make a beat with DJ Scene on on an MPC 2000. And after that, it was like I had to get one of those.
They're
And
crazy fun.
yeah, because around 14, I didn't have. We moved from one side of West Seattle to the other, and I had
Hmm.
to sell my drum set because it wouldn't fit in our house was smaller that we moved to. So I had to sell my drum set, and I was like, well, what can I do? I was just heavy into skateboarding back then, and so I kind of just my room turned into a little shrine of paint everywhere and you know turntables and started collecting records and making beats.
Damn, that's crazy. How do you think the music scene has changed since you first started from when you were a kid to when you actually started putting out music until now? Or even like,
Oh yeah, it's
hearing your
changed.
dad explain it.
Yeah, it's changed crazy. I remember seeing videos of my dad, like old VHSs of him playing at bars, and walking on tables and kicking over cups and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And so I kind of adopted that in my performances. Um, Eventually, when I grew the gall to do it. But yeah, it's changed a lot. I've seen what my dad the rock and roll scene was doing. Then I saw um, later on like the underground scene that influenced me of like going to Sage Francis shows and hieroglyphics and all kinds of people, Cool Keith and stuff, and just seeing how those were huge crowds too, and people were there to have fun, Um, it's a trip, to see how everything's fluctuated and now to see what the rap scene is doing and was doing before all this quarantine stuff,
Hmm.
like it was, and personally the the coolest one of the coolest thing is seeing my friends or people I know and did shows with, seeing them take it and throw the javelin super far, like my friend Henri Osborne from Grey Skull. He's always stayed on point, putting out good music and touring, and then even just seeing like what Macklemore did. We used to do shows with Macklemore and be top billing above him, and he'd show up, and he always treated shows like they were like, even when they were underground shows, he would show up with like dancers and like, you know, like he would have it all plotted out. We knew he was taking that serious, and look what he did. It's pretty cool.
Damn. Do you stay in touch with the local music scene happening right now, or are you just focusing more on like your community and local
Oh yeah,
artists in that sense?
yeah. I really like a lot of the stuff our scene puts out. I mean, all the more gang stuff. You know, think about Kung Fu Grip.
Hmm.
There's like there's lots of good groups out there that I just think are perfect for Seattle.
You know Bryce Bowden?
I've heard that name. I haven't. See. I need to do more research on like real current stuff because stuff happens so fast now. Where like someone really young can put out a couple singles and spark and just be on top
Hmm.
fast. And if you don't, if you aren't listening, then people will say something, a name like that, and I'll go like, "Ooh, now I gotta research."
I'll send you some music because there's
Is it
some
good?
fucking talented people out there right now.
Nice. I believe it, man. I mean, yeah, the list goes on. I mean, you keep going. I mean, Raz Simone puts out good music. Who else from our scene? XP Experience.
Hmm.
Tyler. Let's see, Gifted Gab. I mean, there's lots of
Hmm.
good stuff.
For
Nacho
sure.
Picasso.
Yes. I'm actually setting up an interview with him soon. I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, that's cool. He's a good guy. Try to get him to talk about comic books. He does art too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he draws like cool like comic book characters, like yoked out characters.
Shit, that's dope. So tell me about these murals. When did you start all this?
Um, well, I really started it when I realized that I didn't have enough of of a reference point to show people, what I'm capable of. Like I would get murals when I was younger and just kind of ask the say a business owner when I was younger would say, "Hey, I need a mural." I'd say, "Okay, what's your logo?" And I'd try to incorporate their logo, but then I would just do a big graffiti piece. And which is cool, and you can really get good at that stuff too. But eventually I realized, I should probably flex a little harder in the areas um, that I am impressed by, like, because I like, like fantasy art and all kinds of crazy stuff. So um, I wanted to be able to exhibit some of that I knew I was capable of, and just started, donated a couple of those box murals. The Jimi Hendrix was the first one that I did. Um, and then after that, my lawyer told me, hey, we should probably talk to SDOT so that you can do a lot of these. And so we got emailing with those guys and ended up, picking out all the locations in one scoop. And yeah, from there just, and now doing a lot of mural work, large scale, small scale, and just half of my time right now is spent bidding murals and giving, estimates and planning and scheduling for murals so that I'll have steady enough um, my calendar will be filled up where after I leave a mural, I'll go to the next mural and you know.
Hmm. So how did it come about talking to SDOT? Like, how was that? How'd that conversation go about? Because it's like part of the city, and they're probably like weird about it at first, weren't they? Or
Yeah, yeah, they're I mean they just tried to kind of I think I wouldn't say discourage is the right thing. They just didn't understand if it was a good idea for me to hand paint them,
Mhm.
first of all, and secondly, they were worried about using people's likenesses.
Mm.
So both my lawyer and their lawyer had to look into that, and they were just approving the artwork. And since it was me choosing all the artwork, and then they either said yes or no
Mm.
on the stuff, which they said yes to all of them. They don't, you know, as long as there's no logos, profanity, or you know, explicit content, then they're okay really with whatever people's designs are for those boxes. Uh, Usually they have people wrap them in this
Mhm.
like plastic kind of stuff. Um, it's almost like wallpaper or whatever. But uh, I told them I wanted to hand paint them, and that's where they were like, huh. But you know, so that took a lot of emailing and persuasion. Um, then after a few, now they refer me to people. Like people will come
Damn.
in and ask them, hey, how can we get some artwork on our boxes? And then they'll give that them my email or whatever. So I've been getting a little bit of commission work, doing boxes in different places, doing that.
How much? How much? How much do you even charge to do like a box like that? Because it probably takes a long time.
It all depends on the cause, you know, and depends on the budget already set up, you know, because I try to work with people's budgets, even on other murals, you know. Because there's some people who will offer you next to nothing,
Mm.
but they don't really know, you know, because there are some people who will do it for next to nothing too, you know. But it's not going to be always going to come out exactly how they want. But sometimes it will. If they find a young artist who's really hungry and just wants to do something and they're a good artist, you know, you'd be surprised at what some people do for free.
Mhm.
But I spent too many years doing free murals, but now I mix a few in if it's the right cause.
Mhm.
Like there's some people who I won't take their money and I'll do the mural, you know, even if there was money on the table. So
For sure. So what is even like the point of like an electrical box? I don't even know what it does. I just see them all over the fucking city. I'm like, what the heck does that even do?
yeah, so anywhere there's an intersection with traffic lights, because inside those boxes is the basically the guts that control all the traffic lights, that
Oh.
intersection. So like if they have like, you know, some type of where they have to switch it to a four-way stop blinking light, then they just go over there and there's a couple switches they flip inside the thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you see people ever trying to copy your type of style on like electrical boxes, or are you the only person in Seattle doing that?
Uh, I've seen people do it now, but I don't I don't think I was the first by any means. The only reason I started doing like portraits on them is because, as you can see on the Jimi Hendrix back here, it reminds me of the size. Those boxes remind me of the size of like a portrait that would be above a fireplace mantle or something.
Oh.
And so I just realized, oh, I could probably get away with doing like an important iconic figure on each, you know,
Hmm.
each box. And yeah, so it was pretty organic, the thought process of doing those that way. But I think there's probably more people out there. I've seen people in Europe who have done boxes that are like photorealism, kind of like of birds and stuff, um,
Hmm.
that come out pretty cool. Uh, there's some other things I'm getting ready to do that are more like, you'll have to see, but it's more like 3D art where if you look at it at the right direction, you don't even see that there's a box there. It's just camouflaged into the background, or
Wow.
things like that, I'm just gonna get more creative with it. But there's people out there. Um, I got the idea to do the boxes when I saw art on a box, but it wasn't hand painted.
Mm.
It was a wrap, and I didn't know it was a wrap. I just thought someone had painted it. It was out in Federal Way. It's like a box of like a octopus and it's real cartoony looking, and I was just like, oh, that would be cool. I wonder, if there's any boxes in my neighborhood I could paint. And then when I looked at the box near me and realized I had some dead space in between murals and stuff, I was like, I should probably go paint one.
Dope. Did is that Octopus probably by like Henry or something? Like, do you know much about that artist?
Yeah, Henry's a friend of mine.
Oh
He's
shit.
a good guy. Yeah, he actually came through for me one time when I went to paint out at a festival at the Gorge, and the promoter of the event forgot to get my paint. And Henry was there, and he goes, "Oh, here, I got a bunch of paint here." And I had brought some backup paint anyways, but he actually had some colors that I needed for the design that I wanted to do.
Mm.
And so he came through in the clutch, and from there, it's like I'm like forever like Henry, you know. But so he's a really good guy. No, but it looked a lot like his type of art,
Mm.
except for a little bit more like comic booky kind of, but similar, just underwater kind of octopus scene. Yeah,
That's crazy. I did not even know if that was like his actual name, Henry, or like what it was. Like I've always seen those paintings. I'm like, who the heck is this person? I'd love to reach out to that person sometime. But who started
I
first? You or him?
I actually met him for the first time at Disneyland.
What?
Really weird, yeah. Well, I mean, just ironic, but we were both in line at what is it, the like lagoon ride where you get, it's like you're on a boat ride throughout a river ride or whatever.
Hmm.
And I saw a guy with a Henry hat. I was like, "Oh, Henry, we're from Seattle or whatever." And he was like, "That's me." I was just like, "Oh, cool, man. Right on. I'm an artist too." And we just talked for a second because we were kind of crossing paths in the, zigzag line things. So, and then that was real brief, but then the next time we crossed paths, we just chalked it up.
Damn. That's actually fucking insane. Wow.
He's a really cool guy. I mean, you talk about someone you can have some good conversations with. He's one of them.
Have you guys collaborated at all?
No, we're supposed to. I'm trying to figure out a box for us or something. Like it's something we've talked about.
That's dope. That's really dope. Have you seen that there's that I don't even know if it was like a who did it, but there's that one painting of like Barack Obama in Seattle on that garage that's like red and blue.
Hmm, I
I
haven't seen.
pa- I forget where in Seattle it is, but I always pass it. It's like right when he got elected, someone like painted it.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I
Hmm.
painted one a Barack Obama in Capitol Hill, uh, in front of Uncle Ike's.
Hmm. I haven't seen it. That's a that's the thing I want to do though. I want to freaking because how many locations have you painted of like the electrical boxes?
I think there's about 36 now, or 35 or 36.
Damn.
Yeah, man. It's uh it's pretty wild because when I first started doing this, after the first box I painted, I had like a I literally had a dream at night that I covered a lot of boxes. And
Damn.
I remember texting my friend and going like, "Hey, remember that Jimi Hendrix one? I think I'm gonna do more of them. I had this this dream. I think could be cool."
That's actually crazy. I think of anytime I see your boxes, I think of it like Pokemon, like catching a Pokemon card or some shit.
That's
Like,
cool. We have an idea that we're working on for a app for the boxes, that it's like a app just to kind of like a scavenger hunt type thing, right?
Hmm.
where you can check like a checklist. You've seen all the boxes or locate all the boxes, but with augmented reality, so when you go up to the box and you take a picture with your camera in the app, all kinds of live stuff will start happening in the, like things growing out of the ground, and there might be like you turn to the side, there might be like an animation of the figure, talking to you or something, or I don't know.
Dude, that actually sounds insane. And something I also have noticed is that it seems like the community is like very nice about your artwork. I never really see it defaced or fucking like someone putting up flyers on the boxes or anything like that. Do you see that at all?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I try to get around to it fast and yeah, I mean it's there's been a few,
Ah,
but it's been only a couple of people and I know who they are and I just go and buff it and I just
damn. Do you think you have like, is it like painter competition throughout Seattle or like
mm-mm, no.
just
It's
rude
just
people?
yeah, it's just misled youth.
Misled youth. Oh
Uh,
my gosh.
honestly, like there's sometimes I'll have to go fix people putting mustaches on the guys or
Ah,
stuff like that, but it just comes with the territory. I don't get sickened by it at all because I used to be a graffiti writer,
hmm,
and um, I know some of those young kids who are doing that are like they just don't know the right way to put their name up, and they chose my venue. It's all good. And not only that, but I don't own like I have the permits to those boxes, but
hmm,
I purposefully leave like the backs of the boxes pretty blank so
hmm,
that if kids want to put their name up, go ahead and throw it up on the back. I'm not going to cover that up,
hmm.
or even the sides if it's not too blatant on the sides, I won't trip on that. But if you're on the character with it, then that's just disrespectful.
For sure.
Just super bad taste.
So how do people do those they're usually really awful, but like how do people tag on like freeway signs or like on those train tracks over a freeway? Like do you know how people do that? Do they just climb it or
I tend to think usually they're pretty good. The freeway sign stuff is pretty good because you're hanging on a freeway sign and you're
mm,
painting. That's pretty tough to do. So, I mean, good in the best quality you could do for hanging up there.
true.
I've done a few of those when I was younger. I was I'll not lie about it. I was pretty crazy with graffiti when I was young. And so I recognize where all that comes from, and it's really just you want the most permanent and uh, kind of like that's to most graffiti writers, where you put it is as creative as how you put it.
Mm,
Um, and so I have respect for all forms of paint being put up within. Don't cover up the street signs where people can't see where they're going, you know. Uh, but and I'm not going to say go do that. I'm going to say that if you're an artist, then find a way to do like your good art however you can. And some of those people who are just throwing their name up, they're feeling adrenaline every time they go to write their name. So that's influencing the quality of their work as they're going. They're like just trying to scribble it up, get up, and keep going.
hmm.
So in graffiti, if you look at some people's tag, right? They've learned the quickest way to do that tag without having to let go of the cap. So it's called a one stroke, right? So they're just
Oh,
and so it just comes out as one they can just keep going. And eventually if they get good at that, they don't even have to be looking at the wall when they're doing it. So they can watch their own back, look around while they're, and keep going.
damn.
That kind of thing like is just the evolution of graffiti and it's just because there's a law against it. And hopefully in the future there will be no laws against graffiti
Hmm.
because that's what I think needs to happen except for people will know better than to be going on people's private property. There's enough um, public space, walls, dumpsters, things that eventually would evolve into great works of art.
Mhm.
But there's a reason why it's all just tags and stuff. Is just because that's people on the go, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
But don't companies like hire some people to like graffiti like a mural or something like on their side of their business or something like that?
yeah, yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like if if it was let go, like if you go to Europe and you see what they're doing in Europe with graffiti, there is cool murals everywhere, and most of them are illegal.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but also they're illegal in the sense of they didn't get permission to do it, but if a cop was standing right there, no one's putting cuffs on them,
Hmm.
you know? So just let them paint the look and go, that is beautiful. A cop would look and go, that's beautiful, cool, and just keep walking
For sure.
in some parts, like when I was in Germany, that's how it was.
Where do you think the best place that you've seen graffiti is? Is it probably outside of our country even?
It was beautiful to see how parts of Germany were, because that you could just tell that some of the pieces you were seeing were 10 and 15 years old.
Damn.
That they aren't painting over anything. So you would see freeways where it's just whole, like for a mile and a half, just piece, 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 piece.
That's dope.
And yeah, it was really cool to see that stuff. And then you'd see their trains painted and stuff like that too.
So how do people come up with their tags? Is it kind of like gain your own nickname and then you just go off of that? Like how does someone come up with their own tag?
I think it's different for a lot of people. Some people, it's a nickname that your friends have given you. Sometimes it's something you chose. Sometimes it's a combination of letters that might not even make sense. You just like the letters.
Hmm. Do you have your own tag?
I mean, I used to write graves.
Oh,
That's, yeah, growing up was my, that's how I got Graves 33. Um, it's just from age 15 on. That's what I wrote.
what's the 33 mean?
There's a lot of significance behind that number, and it pops up throughout my life. But we used to do a lot of study on symbolism when I was doing music a lot I was part of a group called Black Lab Productions, and we would research, documentaries and all kinds of stuff on symbolism and 33. There's a lot behind that number and a lot of significance, and it pops up so much that I just said, okay, I'm going to adopt that. Also, there was this other rapper in the area that went by Greaves,
Hmm.
and he's also a friend of mine. Shout out to Greaves. And I told him one day, I was like, man, people keep like, because there would literally be people showing up to my show thinking it was his show, going, oh, this isn't Greaves, and I'm like, Grave, no, this is Graves. The writing the A's, and you know what I mean, and I would have to point that out. And around that time, I was like, well, maybe I throw the 33 on there, just made sure that that stuck on flyers and just kept pushing that more. And
Wow.
I would even correct people if they forgot it. Hey, make sure to put that 33 on there, 'cause yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So when people, if there is like a stereotype towards graffiti artists, is there like a age range that people usually think of when they're like, oh, this is how old this person must be if they're graffitiing?
Um, they obviously just don't know the history because there's hobo train riders who are in their 60s and 70s who still paint and still put stuff on trains.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it is graffiti as a whole a rebellious thing, or do you think it's more of a way of just to express how you feel, or
Yeah, graffiti for sure is a rebellious thing because graffiti by definition is illegal, so anytime you see a mural that looks like graffiti, if it was legal, it's not graffiti at that point. It's just a mural. It's just, you know. But graffiti, being rebellious, yeah. I hope that there will always be, because there is now, there'll always be a intermingling of all the worlds or subgenres of graffiti, I should say, because
Mhm.
there's graffiti artists out there who want to just bomb and put put their name up. It doesn't matter as ugly as it is or whatever. They just want to put it up as many places as possible. And then there's artists who want to like form a career and you know do and be known and not anonymous or whatever, right? And so I just hope they're always able, those two worlds are able to be respectful towards each other and stuff. Because yeah, there seems to be like, if you think about it in the world, there's some separation. Once there's, you take hip hop, right? Um, it started as one thing, and then you get the subgenres of it, or even rock and roll. You get the subgenres of rock and roll when it started off as, you know, one thing, and then it branches off into chaotic subgenres that eventually sometimes those subgenres end up being at each other's like, I just hope that for art's sake, there's, because muralists, they could be hard on bombers and go like, little vandals or whatever, and then bombers could be going, man, forget your mural, you're gentrifying this wall. This wall's for the community or something. You know what I mean? Like, so everyone has a voice, and I hope they can always coexist in peace.
Do you think that hip hop, skateboarding, and graffiti gets clumped together for the right or wrong reasons?
Skateboarding led me to graffiti.
Hmm.
Graffiti led me to making beats and everything. Like everything leads to one thing leads to another as long as you have the ability to make good decisions for yourself in the world. I think everything means something to the individual. Like I, for instance, I used to work a few dead end jobs um, in construction, sheetrock and framing, or doing carpentry and remodels and stuff, right? Well, that led me to learning how to use a scissor lift and man lift, a boom lift and stuff. So now I can do that with my murals. Now I'm not I am experienced in that area, or so it's all relative. It all makes I think skateboarding led me to a lot of what I am now.
Wow.
That's also why I painted that Mark Hubbard box. When I was a kid skateboarding, he was a neighborhood staple for us, and we would buy skateboards from him when we'd break a deck or something because he had like a little underground skateboard company, and we would go and skate his. He also had like a bowl in his backyard, so we would go in his backyard and skate in his swimming pool that he made for skateboarding. So yeah, it all leads to like when you're a kid, these little things that you do, you end up an evolved version of that. Is
Mm.
is my theory.
Part of the journey.
Yeah.
So how hard is it to actually rent one of those lifts to paint a mural? Is it like as easy as just like looking it up online or?
Yeah, you just call the spots. There's a few different spots. There's like All Star. Um, there's a couple different spots you can call, and it's just a cost. They don't care if you even know how to operate it. They'll just drop it off where you say, and they'll say, "Okay, keep it charged. We'll be back for it on this other, this day, or call us when you want us to pick it up or whatever." You go, "All right."
That's funny as fuck. I did not know that.
He toss you the keys. Yeah, you're renting it. So,
Mhm.
but eventually, I'm gonna just buy one. You know,
Damn.
I'm gonna buy two. I'm gonna get a scissor lift and a boom lift. That way, if I need to go do something, it's not a cost to me.
Damn. How would you drop it off? Can you drive it like on the freeway or something? Or do you have to like how would you
But
get
you
it to
get a little trailer, like a flatbed trailer.
mm.
and then just pull it with a truck.
That sounds dope.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm trying to eventually get it set up where I'll be pretty self-sufficient, other than if I could learn how to make my own paint,
Mm,
that would be the other step, and brushes and stuff,
yeah.
'Cause that's, I mean, for me, the focus is more like sustainability. Um, like when all this quarantine happened, one of the first things I did was went and bought a bunch of paint because, you know, half of what people got going on in the world is because, and the stuff we get to do is because store doors are open, and then also things are getting delivered to people's houses now, so get ready for a lot of stores to close.
I was just talking about that with my family. Like, you know how people can look back at like fucking Blockbuster and be like, dude, you don't understand how what it was like to be able to walk into like a just walk into a movie store and actually take time to look at movies. And it was like it was like an adventure. Like, what if we fucking look back at grocery stores or like fucking Safeway or anything and be like, yeah, we used to talk to the cashier and walk through aisles, and now we just press a button on our phone. Like,
Yeah, I don't think because once the whole system is automated like that, um, what happens when the cord is pulled? Um, so what I'm trying to work on is kind of having my house be my kingdom and be kind of self-sustainable. Like I want to eventually, pretty soon here actually, get chickens. Like I'm in the process of building a chicken coop, and we have, our gardens going, and also just knowing all your neighbors, being friendly with your neighbors, making sure that you got each other's backs. Because in the end, like I want them to know that, hey, I'm gonna try to keep extra crops coming. So if you guys, if the grocery stores do close and Becky and David over here needs some cucumbers or something or some extra eggs, like here, because we're gonna have to be able to feed each other in the end. And I just, the delivery stuff, there's a side effect to all that. It's like a lot of trucks gonna be out there riding around delivering things individually to people's houses now. Uh, and even like the masks, like I wear those in establishments, but I make sure that it's a mask that I can fit the little filter in, that I'm reusing. I'm not using any of those
blue
disposable ones
ones.
because
Yeah.
those are gonna just go into a landfill. And like I think about all that stuff and I kind of cringe.
Hmm.
But we're here, you
And
know.
this is just the beginning. It's so fucking weird that things are just gonna keep getting more whack.
Yeah, but humans are adaptive to, like we'll see what happens. I just hope that people start really thinking with their own mind and uh not just being too much a part of group think, like just be self-sufficient. Maybe even shut their TVs and computers off for a few days at a time. Yeah, might
Yes.
be fun. Just love their life a little more. That way they can love the people and things around them.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think we'll make it out, and things will get crazy, but there's going to be a lot of people who want to keep their heads on straight.
So what have you learned the most out of this whole quarantine and coronavirus so far?
I've learned to just keep following my instincts and focus on my family. Be Try not, and really this is the ultimate test in patience and stress management. Uh, like most people out there with problems, they want to talk to people about their problems. Well, with all this like social distancing, there's not a lot of people that who used to be able to talk to their friends and stuff. Some of those people now are just stuck with their own thoughts. And I'm kind of used to it because I'm an introvert as it is. um, or at least I like to claim I'm an introvert. It's hard to get me outside of my shell sometimes, but so I'm kind of used to this whole like just hanging out, you
Mhm.
know, focusing on little projects and stuff. But also, I served time. I've served prison time for graffiti.
Wow, what? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so which I mean, not that it's like directly, but I mean, that period in my life also helped me for this period in my life.
Mm.
That kind of thing I believe in. But yeah, no, I was like I said, I was pretty dumb with the graffiti, or reckless, I should say, not dumb. And I went and did a bunch of graffiti one night in Bellingham, and I served my time for it. They gave me some felonies for the amount of damage that I did,
Jeez.
and so yeah, Bellingham didn't like that.
It's a college town, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and this was back in 2001, there was a big like uh, I should say witch hunt on graffiti writers around that time, and I was pretty crazy. Most of the people I hung out with weren't as crazy as me when it came to wanting to do reckless graffiti, but so yeah, that night I went and did a bunch of graffiti. I shot myself in the foot and ended up getting a year and a day sentence. They wanted to
Damn.
make an example out of me and send me to prison instead of, because I had been, busted a few times before that. They just said, he's not going to stop. We're going to have to put him in the big house. And yeah, and so yeah, I mean, so that was like quarantine and isolating type situation, except for being around people in
Mhm.
prison. Um, but then, yeah, so this quarantine is situation has kind of taught me a lot about that. It's also opened my eyes to just doing my own research and having my own perspective on things and not paying attention to any media propaganda, not paying any attention to any of that. Just really and also trying to put little puzzle pieces together on why things are happening a certain way and why, what is this? What's the bigger picture here if you follow things through down further down the stream and we keep on this route, what does that lead to? Like I've been thinking of those things and scenarios.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like it's weird that I feel like the information's all there, and I think it's weird that some people are just ignore the information, and it confuses me, you
Yeah,
know?
for me, what I do, I take the information in and make my own assumptions and act accordingly. But like, for instance, I'm doing, you should see like the amount of vitamins I take on a daily basis.
Same. I take a lot too, just since quarantine started.
And I mean, before quarantine, I was taking them because I was having this issue with my hip, and I went and got um, MRIs. I went and got all kinds of stuff done to try to figure it out, and they couldn't figure it out. So the whole time I've been taking crazy vitamins and stuff, and just treating myself very healthy. Like, uh, I only put water in my body now, liquids wise,
Mm.
only water. Every once in a while, I'll have like a sip of some other stuff. But I don't like drink alcohol anymore. Maybe a glass of wine, like once every 3 months or something, a glass of wine, which I'll probably start drinking a little more wine here and there. But, and I mean, the worst thing I do is smoke weed. But other than that, like I'm really healthy on myself. I take this stuff that's really good called Stamit 7, and it's 7 different types of mushroom mycelium. And basically it's host defense. So like ever since I've been taking it, I haven't felt sick or at all, like by any means. And my son, and this is like I've been taking it for probably a year and a half now or something. And my son, coming to and from school. He's been sick a couple times, and I didn't get it
Hmm,
and stuff. So it's kind of like some, like it's a little experiment of mine. If I keep taking this stuff, like let's see how long I can go without ever getting any ailments.
for sure.
Um, and then just eating right,
Hmm.
staying away from fast food and eating as healthy a protein as I can.
Yeah, I've been realizing because I just started noticing it. I've never been like a huge fast food eater, but I think I officially quit a few months ago because I just really took time during this quarantine to think about the people who are getting sick are usually people who already have some type of illness or disease, usually overweight, and just I'm just like looking at things and I fast food like even the payoff like when you're eating it it's all right, but even like the minute after you just don't feel good. You could it's not even like real meat and shit. Like French
I,
fries, of course, those are
yeah,
good, but
I try not to judge people for what they put in their bodies and stuff, but I mean, there's numerous things that people should cut out of their daily habits if they
mm-hmm,
care about themselves, because the masks they're putting on, most of the masks aren't the proper type of masks that will save them from this thing anyways. But number two is same people who are, yelling at people for not wearing a mask might be eating McDonald's every day and waking up smoking cigarettes and, like, come on, let's be realistic. There's a mirror people should be looking at right now,
mm-hmm.
you know. So,
Are you worried about sending your son back to school when it starts up in like the next month and a half, or what are your
um,
opinions on all that?
he's gonna be following their curriculum of mainly homeschooling. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna get him together with his friends to play and stuff like that. But if public schools ever try to issue some type of mandate vaccine or anything like that, he won't be going back there. And it's evident, it would be evident what they're trying to do here is really separate the masses and it's always been a war on the middle class, right? So what it is, hey, eliminate public schools, then there's only private schools. Or if you go to public schools, it's going to be from home and your teacher's going to be on a screen,
Mm.
and then at that point, because the emails that we've been getting from Seattle Public Schools are all about how kids are going to be at homeschooled, or a combination of half day, every other day at school, and then the rest of it online stuff.
Mm.
So everything I see is that most public schools aren't really going to come back until something changes. But really, my perspective on all this is that, and it's rough to say this, I'll say it publicly, but I think most of what we're dealing with is very manufactured. Like, like who owned the lab in Wuhan? Where's the name on that dotted line? Why don't we see that? You know, who is doing that research? Who is paying for the research? Where it leaked out of? We don't see that. Where's the accountability for that? Those people should have the death penalty, in my opinion, because that's the risk you take for doing that research. You just doomed a lot of the planet. You should die. That's my weird, artistic perspective on the whole thing. But instead, they want to shut down all kinds of economy, all kinds of people's, infrastructure is going to suffer. All people's lives are going to suffer, right? And when you look at the data, I got it over here somewhere. It's like, man, 40 million people tested positive in our country. Um, Out of that, very small, what, a couple 100,000 or 100,000, some plus people died, which shows that the mortality rate is like 0.07 or something like that. So it's like if you're under the age of 80, you have a better chance of dying from lightning strike. All this when you research the data, or like you see the spike,
Mm.
the main spike was in March, and then it starts to go down, right? Well, we're
Mhm.
in summer. They aren't even talking about mosquitoes that transmit the virus, right? There should be a huge spike coming. No huge spike because herd immunity. Because and maybe even this is something that everyone's had for years, and now they just want to test people to give people the fear that it's going to kill everyone, and then everyone signs up for whatever just to get the fear off their back. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And then they mandate a vaccine. I mean, there's all kinds of shit where I just go, it doesn't have to go down like this.
it's all trial and error right now. Anyways, like I don't think people realize that right now is a huge test run of like opening everything back up, and everyone's proven the fucking government right that people are idiots and the beaches are completely packed,
The
fucking
beach is the best
restaurants.
place to be too, man, because for real deal, like listen to ancient philosophy, beaches have healing properties.
What?
Yeah, beaches have healing properties. Go sink your feet in the sand at the beach for a day. Go hang out with your family in the sand on the beach. Go in the water a little bit. Tell me you don't feel better and recharged for like a long time after.
Mm.
It's all, dude, I'm telling you, there's a lot going on where I just go like people just got to make up their own minds and stop listening to all this fear factor stuff that's going to keep them all in their bubble, you know. And then
Yeah.
and then on top of it, I do know the facts behind if you go too far with sanitizing yourself and your surroundings that makes your immune system weakened because it doesn't have the proper muscles to fight off some of the harder things that it's going to encounter.
Hmm.
And so the effects of what's going on right now, people sanitizing their shit too much, we'll see what happens in the future from that. People are going to be all kinds of um, not ready for even a small flu, or like, I don't know. I've always been under the understanding that we adapt through repetition, our bodies, like if you never run around the block, then running around the block's going to seem pretty hectic. So you just got to run around the block all the time.
Hmm.
That way it doesn't seem hectic. And that's like what I think a lot of what nature is about. If you look at how things endure different things in evolution, and then so like if there's a lot of whatever, like your fingernails, you know, that in evolution, I believe we started having fingernails as a tool because we didn't have them at one point. So our bodies eventually started giving us stronger fingernails and like that type of thing. Like it's because of the it's because of the hardship or not. It's because of the difficulties in life that you reach that in your DNA through generations, if they keep reaching those same difficulties, then your body's gonna respond and adapt to that.
Hmm.
So I just feel like viruses, being as it is a fact, we have thousands of them in our body. That's through evolution.
Hmm.
Like their theory on the Greys, the aliens, is that they've lived for billions of years, right? Their bodies have that. The theory is that the Greys exist with so many viruses that if you were to actually shake hands with the Grey, that you would die because
Oh
your body
shit.
wouldn't have any immunity towards the viruses that you just contacted.
Wow.
And it makes sense when you think about the tribes that are isolated on islands on our planet. And if you send someone there, they all get sick and die because one person contacted them.
Damn.
That's what I'm saying. I believe in the herd immunity thing, but I believe that it is smart to wear masks so that the process of the virus getting weak has its own evolution. Because if everyone encounters it at once, then everyone doesn't have the antibodies right away.
Hmm.
Whereas if a few people get it here, a few people get it there, then when that virus is trying to spread to another person, it hits the antibody. It hits someone with the antibody and it gets weak.
Hmm.
I can't get into this body. Well, then by the time it gets to an older person or someone with a weakened immune system, that virus is so weak it doesn't even affect them, or they get sick on a just random scale. And that also shows why most of the people who are testing positive right now, most of them have no symptoms because their body's just taking in the virus and going, oh, we'll add it to the thousands that we got right now.
Shit, that's crazy.
But that's my own assumption of the science and doing my own research, but I'm not a scientist, and I can
Mhm,
just I can just hope that that's right. And if my assumption's right, then most people have had it and not even known it, you know.
mhm. I always think it's funny when people are like, "Oh yeah, I think I had it back in December." They could have, but I just think
Probably
it's who knows.
could be. A lot of my friends got sick back then. It was like it was horrible, and I was like, all right, you could have had it, man. Give me a hug, like I don't like my friends do, and the social distancing thing. Um, Like in public, I do it out of respect because I know people are going through fear right now. And I know that, and this is the other trippy thing is the psychological effect that I know about. You know, road rage tends to happen because subliminally people or subconsciously people know that one wrong move and they could die when they're behind the wheel.
Mhm.
And that person in that other car just almost killed you in your head. But you don't, so you react accordingly. Um, well, right now, people are at the same cliff's edge with wearing a mask in public or social distancing.
Mm.
If you get close to me, you just risk my life, buddy. You know what I mean? So I respect people. You don't know what they could be going through in life. They could be really, and you could be standing next to someone who does have a really bad immune system or something. So I respect it in public, but out on the sidewalk, I'm taking my mask off because psychologically, seeing all these people walking around in sunlight in a mask where they don't need to be, you only need that mask when you're in close quarters with people, you know? Um, that's the thing. That's the thing that people need to check themselves and go, hey, we should take this mask off because how much do you want it ingrained in your normal life now after this? Because we do this for a couple years and better believe it becomes a normal like fashion thing like a hat.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I mean, and not saying that it should be villainized either. If someone wants to wear that as a fashion statement, they go ahead and wear it. Like to each his own. I'm
Mhm.
just saying that it looks like a muzzle to me. It looks like everyone is Scorpion and Sub-Zero, or everyone is Shredder from Ninja
Yes.
Turtles or something. And you can't see anyone smiling anymore, and that's probably the big thing is that like I like to spread positive energy, and when I'm walking around, I feel like people they could be happy. I can't tell, not unless you smile with your eyes.
For sure. Well, I do know that your fucking murals, anytime I see them, it always makes me happy. I think there's just something about them. I think whether it's purposefully or not purposefully, you've done a great job with them.
Appreciate that.
Really.
It honestly has been the only thing in my life that has provided some clarity to a sense of purpose and also like my music, right? Like when I was making music, the type of music I made, I can't expect to get too deep into some like I can't expect someone to come up in tears and say you saved, you helped me in this, I can't expect that. With the art when it happened because it's happened a few times where people come up to me in tears or whatever. With the art I go, I can understand what they're feeling because it's actually the icon that I painted or the person that I painted that I did it enough justice that you know it it struck a chord with them. So like when those things have happened, it just makes me go, I got to keep doing this until the casket drops. It's like for me, because I took a big risk to do the first two boxes that I painted. And it's not just the box art I'm talking about, because eventually I'm going to run out of boxes to paint. But I'm talking about like the mural work. I know it touches people, um, and super appreciative. Like I'm just grateful that I have the ability to paint like that, 'cause
Beautiful.
I think there's a lot of artists out there who like really they try a long time to strike a chord with people. And it's not even that my art's doing it really too. It's more that the notion of painting the mural and the person themselves that I'm painting half the time.
Mhm.
But eventually, maybe the art is gonna that I'm painting is gonna move towards more of like a it struck an emotion because not because of the person I'm painting, but because of the subject matter or the you know or the way I painted it.
Mhm. Yeah, tell me the reasoning behind the George Floyd mural.
Yeah, the George Floyd, I painted that just right after seeing the video. I realized, like I have this box sitting up there that I had a permit for, um, that I should go paint him on, just give some. I really, because I have a few boxes still to paint and locations that I have permits for,
Mhm.
and I kind of racked my brain about which box would facilitate more of like a shrine setting, because I know that's when something like this happens that people want somewhere to go to mourn and stuff,
Mhm.
and so I thought of that box being a pretty good spot for that, um, and just realized I should go do it now or as soon as possible.
Yeah, it looks great. I don't think you've done many boxes that you put words on. What was the meaning behind putting the his last words on that box?
Yeah, I put his words on there. I so I took when I was going to do the box, I took his photo and those words and put them into an image so that I could um, superimpose them onto a digital reference of the box so that I could see, to scale what I was going to paint.
Mhm.
And I wanted to put that on there because it's like there's a right around the corner there's a police precinct, King County Police Precinct. And my first idea, really, to tell you the truth, was to make a stencil of George Floyd's face that I could do on numerous boxes
Mhm.
and go put them on the closest boxes that I could to all the precincts in Seattle. That's what I wanted to do. So just did that portrait, realizing how just, because I was really, I mean, after seeing that video, anyone who wasn't moved to do something is kind of, I wouldn't say
Heartless.
they're just, well, they're probably just dealing with it in their own way, but it's a traumatizing thing, right? And I realized that I should probably go paint something nice for the guy, and not only that, knowing what anger people were feeling and where that could take people, I just wanted like something that I knew to be um, like good art,
Mhm.
for him, put it somewhere, and then but the words. That's just a reminder to the police who might be leaving that precinct. Like, how do you not hear someone saying those words with your knee on their neck how, and cuffs on? And, like, how do you, you're obviously murdering the person. So, I mean, it just felt like the right thing to put. And then later, I knew I was going to cover it. I'm still going to do some more work on the box. But I was waiting for, because there was like a lot of candles and shrine, like flowers and stuff that were building up, and I didn't want to go have to move that stuff and paint and then put all the stuff back. Um, so yeah, basically, I'm going to fill it up with flowers. I put rest in peace down there just because I did actually have someone hit me up and say, my daughter really likes that George Floyd portrait, but she can't look at it because of the words. The words scared her.
Damn.
And when I thought about that, I just went, okay, I should probably go start putting the flowers up around the bottom. Because I know that with those, when people do like little memorial shrines for people, they don't always last, for years and years. So I want to put around the base of the whole thing just a lot of flowers.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that those will always be there.
Damn. I think you have a beautiful mind, for real.
Thanks, man. I try to be a little more sentimental than others. Like, I don't know.
It's dope.
It's a trip though because I know there's not everyone there's never two people on the planet that think the same, and no one should expect each other to because we all have different experiences. Um, but if everyone could really just take us take some time during each day to just and usually during the start of their day is a good time. Just think about the things you're thankful for. I know people have heard this from other people before, but it really does work. Think about the things you're thankful for, and then just try to live a honest, like honorable life where you don't have anything that you have to keep in the closet, really. You know what I mean? Like you can, if you think about like if you live as best as you can, you're still going to cut some corners in life and not know it. You're still going to create some garbage. You're still going to, you know, So do your best, I guess, but don't stress over it. You still gotta love life. Like there's people out there who smoke cigarettes, right? Just because it's a bad habit, for some people, that's the only thing that they have a little bit of happiness in life is when they get to smoke or something.
Mhm.
And so you take that away from them, then what do they got? And so, I mean, I don't think people should, as they're cleaning their lifestyle up, they shouldn't be looking at everyone else and judging and shit. Like I think that's really the wrong thing there. Just look within themselves, and think about what they can change. And change is super uncomfortable for most people. Like after I got out of prison, I didn't really have a good foot to start with. Before that, I was working like random, dead end jobs, and then I get out of prison and I'm like, where do I start now? So, like, obviously doing construction and then I was doing office furniture installation and just random stuff. And yeah, you just realize at some point, like, there's just more to life. I, I think at some point I shifted everything to realizing that karma is a very legit real thing. And that if you don't believe in it, look at your lifestyle after you do believe in it.
Mm.
Start, you know, shifting. Because, like, to me, my lifestyle sucked, man. Like, dude, like, they didn't expect much of me, my parents and everyone, like, and then once I started to focus on, like, no, man, be a good person. Or, like, for instance, see a guy drop a wallet on the ground and pick the wallet up and tell him he dropped his wallet. Here, like those little things. Like you feel like a better person for doing that stuff. And so the universe shifts and starts to answer your question, or answer your demands of it, pretty much is the way I look at it.
For sure. Man, I think you hit the nail on the head on a lot of topics today, man. And I was really excited to talk to you and just to like know more about the meaning behind your artwork and
Thanks, Blaine.
everything like that has really opened my eyes too.
You're awesome, man.
Thank you. Well, this is the NAS podcast with
Desmond Hansen.